there and welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuck with Queen Bee Creations and I'm delighted to have you joining me here today for another first. So if you haven't been here before, I invite you to give us a thumbs up, subscribe so you keep us coming into your feed. Easy to find us then. We come at you twice a week at least, Mondays and Fridays, with different crafts and different projects and things that I'm up to. Now today kind of comes courtesy of my sister, my younger sister, Carrie. She is a great socializer, and she, at her cottage, when she has people up for the weekends, she will arrange different crafts for them. So she's done a couple that I have done here, but this is one that she is into. I didn't even know she was into this until she posted a picture showing the pillows that a group of women that were up at her cottage had felted over the course of the afternoon, and just in 2 hours, and they were awesome looking. And so I thought, felting, I would like to try that. So we're gonna try it, because why not? So what I did was I went on to Amazon. I'll drop the link in here. I just bought a little kit. So it had all kinds of different colors of roving wool, which is just wool that is all loose like this. It's not yarn. It hasn't been twisted up. It's kind of that loose kind of wool. So it comes with a bunch of little colors, and each of those little ones has like a big piece like this in it. So it's enough to at least get started with doing some little projects and seeing whether you like it or not before you invest. I think that usually you buy like the roving yarn in kind of big hanks, and they're maybe about, $15 or so Canadian, a big bundle, like 8 ounces or something. I think these are all 2 ounces. So I thought, well, I want a bunch of colors, and I don't want to make that kind of investment because what if I hate it? So, because it could happen. So I got a little 5-minute lesson from her in the shop yesterday. And I had kind of picked up a little kit. So in the kit, it comes with like a whole bunch of the needles, a little pouncer like this. And this is one of the needles that sticks down into the side, and you kind of use it like this. She said that there's some that have like a rubber grip on the top and that they're better. But it came with this little glue stick, and I really don't know what the heck you do with that. So I don't know. If anybody knows, let me know. It's in there, and I don't know what it's for. And like little scissors and these things to protect your fingers so you don't pounce into them. And then these are just little rivets and project pieces. So really, it's about getting the yarn. Oh, and it came with a little block, not this one. I think this is the one my sister gave me, but a little white block, because that's what you put your fabric on and you pounce into that. So what she did give me was a little dryer ball, like a wool dryer ball, because she said this is great for beginners to try felting into the dryer ball. So I thought that what we do is we do a dryer ball, give it a go. And then I also have a piece of wool that she left me with that we will try for another project. So we're going to try 2 different projects. So like a flat one and then this, so that I give it a good try to see whether or not I like it. If I do like it, then I'm going to do another video with a big pillow. But I'm getting ahead of myself because we don't know. We don't know if I like it, and I may be committing myself to something that I hate. So we'll see. But the idea is this. You want to kind of pounce up and down until you're kind of cleaning a line, and then you may angle the pouncing a little bit. But you're taking these fibers and you're in essence using a needle to push them down, to pounce them down into your wool. If you're doing fabric, then you're taking flat unwoven wool, so maybe like a wool blanket or a wool sweater, but one that doesn't have cabling and cable knit, and you wash it in hot water and you dry it on high heat with the idea that you shrink it really tight. And the tighter it is, like the more that it shrinks, the better. Okay, so it becomes more felted, and then that's where you can start to do this. So I am going to, so I'm going to show you, I cheated and I tried it last night. That was my first heart. That's the first, I never felted before. And look at that heart, the perfection of that heart. And then I did a little red one and I did a little pink one. So what I'm doing on this ball, and we're gonna do one together, I'm gonna do a big pink one in here. We're gonna do this together. Okay, so, you know, I think I had fun doing it. I think I got a lot of aggression out stabbing. It's like this voodoo doll you hate. You just stab him over and over again. It was kind of fun. Okay. Depending upon the kind of day that you had. So I'm just taking a hunk of this, and I don't even know how to tell how much you need. So I'm doing a design that, so this is what I did. I kind of took my yarn, sorry, it's not even yarn, it's my wool, and I kind of shaped it roughly into that heart shape. So I had kind of even lobes. And I just kind of went with how this logically seemed to me. And then I started stabbing, so going down the middle, because that starts to hold it in place already, right? So as soon as you start stabbing it, in essence what you're doing is you're pushing the fibers of that pink wool down into and through all of that fibers, all the fibers of your wool base. So you're just kind of pouncing over and over and over again, missing your fingers to be able to get this into the shape. So you can see that this side is holding and this side isn't, because I haven't pounced anything on this side. So let's go and at least get this starting to hold shape. Now I want to have that deep V happening. So you can see already that I've got the rough shape, and you just keep doing this. So you can see how puffy that is, how much raised that is, and how flat this is. So you just keep going and starting to push all those fibers down. So you can see where this is like the voodoo doll stabbing thing. Once you start getting out to like here, I have a little tiny gap. So you can, I haven't done this before, but my sister told me I can, take just a little bit of the extra wool and kind of put that in to fill that gap. And this pops out of this, so I can see where maybe having some other kind of little tool would work, but if I love it and I want to do a bunch of it, then I could invest in a good little pouncing tool. But the kit came with 0 instructions, so quite honestly, I would not have figured this out had she not dropped by. So I'm glad that I just kind of waited. But okay, I could have gone on YouTube and looked at a video too, which I have not done, and that might have made sense. Okay, so all I'm doing here is I'm kind of pushing those fibers in a little bit and just kind of hitting that underside just to tighten up my edge a little bit before I start pouncing straight down again. Most of your action is just straight up and down, and you just keep going around and around, and you can see how that's starting to flatten out more, and you just keep going until you get it nice and flat and close to the surface. So not too bad. So I have this heart to do, maybe another one here and another one or two here. And you know what I think is, like, as I'm doing this little dryer ball, I think this is just super cute to do a couple of these. My sister had suggested that I start with circles, and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna jump in and I'm gonna do hearts. But luckily they turned out okay, so I don't think hearts are a hard shape because I managed to make it work. But you can draw a design on and then, you know, use that as a guide. You could use like other things to be able to create some patterns on there to be able to follow. So you don't have to freehand shape it like I did with this. So if you're looking at doing a slightly more complicated shape, but I'm glad that she said to start with this, because I think that it's kind of a good way to get an idea of how to pounce, the amount you have to pounce, how to be able to shape it, how far you have to go to be able to flatten it out enough that it's well and truly felted in there. And you know, if you put this into the dryer, that you're not going to have it all detach and fall out, that it's well adhered and kind of meshed and has become one with the base fabric. So it was a good way to go. Okay, I'm just going to carry on and get this one finished. So I'm going to finish off doing this and do a couple more hearts, show you that. But then when I come back, we're going to try doing a flat one, and we'll talk about that a little bit and where you can go with that and what you can do. But I haven't tried it, I've just practiced on this. Good place to start. We'll do a flat one together too and see how that goes. I have a plan for it. I just don't know if I can execute it. Here's where our first project is at. So I started with the dryer ball, and you saw that I was going to be adding the hearts. And I just free-handed them, meaning I just shaped them myself. But you could take like a little cookie cutter and lay it down and push your wool in and kind of start stamping that way around all the edges and use that to be able to help you shape your pattern, your design. I picked an easy one. I knew what the shape of a heart was, and for the most part, did a pretty good job. I mean, here, this heart, I mean, it looks like a heart, but you can see that it doesn't peak down in the center as much as some of my later ones, which were a little bit better defined. So there's a bit of a learning curve, but not much. And this is my first go with almost zero instructions, just go up and down. What I have found, so here's my learnings. It goes a lot easier if you ensure that, you know, you're using a fairly level amount. When you want to finish with a relatively flat surface, make sure that you're not putting a big blob of the wool on one side and very little on the other. That kind of makes sense from an intuitive perspective, but again, just bears mention. The other thing, you know, the needles, because I know that some people are probably saying, I don't even get how this works. One of the things about these needles, and they come in different shapes and different sizes, not just lengths, but also thicknesses. So the bigger the number, and these are supposed to be numbered, and I'll be darned if I can see any numbering on them, so I think I'd have to get out my magnifying glass. Could be a me thing. But generally the needles are, the bigger the number, the thinner the needle. So if you're working on a really small, fine space, then you're going to want to use a really thin needle. If you're doing a huge, big surface, you could use a much bigger needle. There are also some needle punches that have 3 or 4 needles in them that you could use. So if you're doing a really big surface, you're not having to use one single needle and it would go faster. But in essence, the needles are slightly shaped, whether it's a triangle shape or a star shape. I mean, I think those are the 2 basic shapes. But they have tiny, tiny little barbs on them. And in essence, what's happening when you're going through your wool and down into the wool below it, those little barbs are catching all those fibers and they're starting to weave and mat them together, so that as you're poking, you're actually weaving all those fibers together, and it starts to condense down as that weaving starts to tighten all of those fibers. And that's what you're looking for. And you know, in essence, it's the same thing that you're doing when you look at doing a dimensional project, because a lot of people make super cute felted animals and 3-dimensional things. And it's not happening in this video. Not from that perspective, but I did want to give like a little one a try. And one of the things that you can do is that you can use cookie cutters to create a look. So, you know, let's say you wanted a little Easter bunny. You could lay your fabric out, put this in, put your wool in, and then pounce within that, so that that gives you the structured outline of your project, of what it was that you wanted to do. Now, I had thought about, what have I got in here? So, you know, let's face it, I mean, y'all probably have tons of cookie cutters sitting in a box somewhere. I mean, I had to go into my crawl space. You know, if you're like me and your kids are older, and, you know, maybe I'd pull them out occasionally for grandkids, but I'm not making cookies with the grandkids with the frequency I did with, you know, my kids. But, you know, Christmas time, you want to do, there's the little tree. I mean, you know, the pumpkins, there's all those things. What I wanted to try and do was a little kind of 3-dimensional project. And I'd originally thought of doing like a little mini heart. Stay with the heart themes, but I couldn't find it. It's in my crudité cutters, and I just didn't get up where the heck that might be. Let's try the mushroom. And we'll do like the red top, and okay, let's try a mushroom. Changing my mind. So I'm going to use kind of a cream to start. Now, this is, the roving wool is in essence carded wool. So it's taking, you know, if you've ever gone to visit a pioneer village or something, right, that you take the 2 cards over and over to be able to pull all the fibers straight. So you usually end up with kind of long strands of it. This one's just a little bit tangled. And if you try and pull it, it won't. But if you take it further apart and pull gently, the fibers release, and that's the best way to kind of, in essence, cut your wool. So the idea with doing a dimensional one, you want to have your foam pad, and kits will come. I mean, the kit I got came with this foam pad. From what my sister tells me, this one's better. She got this by going to a foam mattress store, like a foam store. And if you just say that you're looking for foam for felting, they know exactly what you need. And then you just pay for what you buy. They'll cut it down into whatever size or shape you want. If you were doing, you know, big 12 by 12 pillows, then maybe you want to have a 12 by 12 one, or you want some smaller project pieces, you know? Depends upon how much you get into this. a little one is fine if you just want to start off by playing. I'm kind of doing a red cap on my mushroom. And again, first time, I don't know how to look. We're faking it. So we want this to be a dimensional item, which means as I start to push down in, it is going to be slowly attaching here. So we will be flipping it over to ensure that I don't have it attached onto my board. But right now we're just condensing all of those fibers and it starts compacting it. And you can see it happening before your eyes, which is really kind of fun. But see how it's starting to stick to my mat. In which case we pull that up, turn it over, and we start going from the other side. And we just keep going, doing the same piece, flipping it back and forth until it's dense enough to stay on its own. Now I'm kind of looking at my stem and wondering if I can shade this a little bit. Okay, well I'm faking everything else. Let's just do this. All right, so I'm pulling a little piece of some fibers from this kind of a gray brown. I'm just wondering if I kind of lay it roughly over the top. Let me just show you. So just a little bit like this, and then this is my other side. If that starts to give a little bit of shading, I don't know. And you can take it out now, right? It's kind of shaped. Not quite sure that I'm convinced that looks like a, and this is where, ouch. You may decide that you want to put on the little finger protectors that my fingers are bigger than. But these are, I'm just doing the one where I'm poking. This is just because as you're poking toward your edges, and you just keep going, creating more density and helping to shape the overall look of it. All right, so there's my little mushroom so far. That was the shading. I think it's too heavy, but that's life. One of the things that I did try to do is put a little bit of shading up under and poke it a lot more so it makes it denser, so it compresses down, and do the top less so it looked puffier. Now what I'm doing is I'm just taking a tiny, tiny little bit of kind of that cream colored wool, rolling it into a tiny little ball in my fingers, and then putting it on my mushroom, and very gently to begin with, because I don't want to poke my finger now that it's kind of stuck down, and just create some of the dots on the mushroom. So that's going to be felted more on there, but you can see the little dots happening. And I'll do those on the side and on the top. And you can create little three-dimensional items. Now, this is something that you could attach onto something. So let's say maybe you're doing a bag and you want to have some raised three-dimensional items, because now I could take this and then I could felt down into my fabric and I could create, I I could create some raised, chunky textures, but you know, you might want to create a bit of a felted vignette for something, you know, so you want to have some mushrooms and some trees, and you're going to maybe do some three-dimensional farm animals. Let me finish him off, and then I want to try one more thing, because, you know, why not jump into it all? I'm not quite ready for a big three-dimensional item, however. I think that takes a little bit more skill and practice than my first go-round. I'm not sure my mushroom looks specifically like a mushroom if I wasn't there to tell you, although I think the little dots on top give more of the impression of that stylized mushroom than anything else. So the next experiment is doing maybe kind of like a picture on a flat surface. And I'm just doing this on a piece of this is like the sleeve of a wool sweater. So all shrunk, so washed in hot water, dried in super hot on your in your dryer. And I'm not going to be able to freehand this. So what I did do was I took an image off the internet, cut it out, and I'm just going to use a bit of a paint marker. Okay, this is not easy to trace with all those fibers, so it's not going to be exact, but I just want to kind of give myself a bit of an outline, because I'm not convinced I could make it look like a sheep, and why I'm starting with such a hard image, I don't know. You know, like, gee, I did a ball and I did a little mushroom. Sure, I can do a big sheep now. But it's okay, it's just us, right? So if it doesn't end up looking like a sheep, you guys are okay with that, right? So the idea here is, you know, the same principles with flat fabric is, how did I do? Okay, it's sort of sheepish. It's kind of outlined there. It's roughly a sheep shape. Sheep shape. Okay, that works. And we're going to be doing the same thing. Now, always, you know, I mentioned that we want to be going up and down, just because this is really, really fine here. And if you go down and then twist to pull out, this may get caught in fibers and it's going to break off. If you break a needle, make sure that you get that out of your project, especially if you're doing something three-dimensional. Just, you don't want a sharp needle sitting in the middle of your work. But for this, we're just simply going to be kind of doing what we did and taking some of our fibers and starting to quilt them down into the shape. And I think it'll be all about the edging, you know, the going around and cleaning up. So I'm just kind of stabbing roughly, because I got fans going here to deal with the heat. But if you just kind of stab roughly there, it holds down. It's starting to attach down into your piece, and it keeps the breeze from blowing my wool away. But I just want to start to lay out the patterning of my sheep. And see about getting enough wool down and I'm thinking that he needs to have kind of a maybe black face and black legs. And then periodically, can you see those fibers coming through? That's what we're looking at. So I don't want it to all get attached down to my foam board there. I'm gonna lift it up every so often so that it's not all attached in there. Okay. So, roughly sheep body shape. I have a little bit of black. And I'm just gonna kind of tease a little bit out here. And sort of fold this over. And I just want to maybe kind of roll it a little bit. Make it into a bit of an oblong or like a cylinder kind of shape a bit as I go to lay it down. And again, I'm just sort of tacking it in place just to start to get a rough idea, and then I'll go back in and start adding my details. I have to kind of look and see what happens with these guys' ears. I don't know. I know kind of the muzzle, the nose part is black. This is really good for getting out aggression, guys. I mean, you have a bad day, you know, just picture somebody else down there and not the sheep. You know, just saying. It could help you. It could help you not lose your temper with a lot of other people, because you can just take it out on your project instead. Just kind of roughly tacking this into shape. He already looks cute, right? Okay, and now I just start going. So this is a spot where if you had like one of those pens that have like maybe 3 needles because you're doing this whole body, that you could use that to be able to flatten out that body faster. I'm okay right now though because of the novelty of this. I took a quick break to go to workout at Taekwondo, and there's a summer camp happening at the Dojang, and one of the lovely young women made me this beautiful bracelet while I was there. So bonus for actually breaking down and leaving the shop and going to work out. Thank you, Serena, honey. It's lovely, and I'm excited to have it. So little reward. Somebody was looking out for me actually going and working out. So this is my sheep so far, and it looks like a sheep. So I'm kind of delighted with it. And you can see in the back where all of that wool has been pulled through and punched through and anchored onto my gray backing wool fabric. But I did check, and those little sheep have black ears. So what I'm thinking I need to do is maybe a white eye. I'm not sure, maybe I don't even need an eye. Okay, let me do the ear first, and then I'll decide if I need it. So I'm not sure how to be able to do the ear. I'm thinking maybe if I take some of the wool and fold it over a bunch of times on itself, and maybe sort of felt it into a bit of an ear shape on here. And I just don't want it to adhere to this, so I have to kind of keep pulling it up and flipping it over. But I'm going to want to sort of mat it all together, kind of felt it all together into a bit of an ear shape. Maybe try it on the white so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just kind of putting it onto its side to get some of the edges, because this is going to be sort of freestanding. I'm thinking that the ear needs to kind of be attached at the base. Okay, you're gonna be poking your fingers when you're doing this, if you're not wearing the finger guards. Not as bad when you're doing it with black. Watch it when you're felting with the white. I'm on the edges, what I'm trying to focus on is getting those little fibers to go in to, so you can see all those little fibers. I'm trying to get those stuck in. I'm not as worried about the base because that I will attach onto kind of the head a bit. But the freestanding part of it, because it's going to be sticking out kind of dimensionally, it has to kind of be done on its own. Right, yeah, I don't know if that's going to be too big of an ear. No, it's maybe cute. Okay. Okay, and that's working, guys. See his little ear sticking up? Okay, that's really cute. All right, so that was our experimenting with needle felting. And really this is like needle felting base beginner level. But we did try it in terms of a couple of different medium. One using a dryer ball, and this is probably one of the easiest things to be able to do it on, picking some simple shapes. I have another ball that I may try doing some floral vines, so I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But really, the kits, I'll put a link into the kit that I picked up off of Amazon, which gave me all those little pouches of colored yarn and this little kit and all of the needles and things. So more than enough to really be able to play and do quite a number of little projects. I'll put a link in for the wool dryer balls as well. If you're going to be doing the fabric, make sure that it's pure wool. Hot water wash to be able to shrink it down, and then hot dryer as well. You want it to shrink down a lot. You want it nice and tight. But, you know, going up and down, going sideways just on the edges to clean up the edges, but making sure that however you push in the pin, you pull it straight out. That needle needs to go in and out the same direction so that all those little barbs can weave all of that wool together. That's going to mat it together, but it's also not going to snap your needle. Okay? We tried doing a little kind of a dimensional item. This means that I need to be trying like a bigger item, but you know, we did okay with at least making it look like, I think if I didn't tell people what this was and they saw it, then they would guess. So that's kind of a good indication that we did okay. And then I popped our little sheep into a little bit, you know, just a little embroidery hoop. Super cute that way to be able to hang on the wall. You could put it into a frame. I left the fabric because I still haven't decided. I may sew it up into a little potpourri sachet, or I may elect to sew it onto a pair of my jeans and make a patch out of them or something. I love, you know what, my favorite part is the ear and the tail. I love the fact that we got a little bit of dimension happening there, and that was a good experiment. So again, easy enough to make some of those little parts on their own, and then to be able to felt them on and attach them in. So leaving the one end just a little bit looser so that it has the fibers to be able to you know, kind of mat into and kind of knit in and mesh with the other fibers. made it really easy to be able to attach. That's kind of like all those little loose fibers become your glue. I gotta tell you, I had a lot of fun with this, and I'm kind of looking forward to experimenting with some more. I'm now thinking I need to do a big pillow, and I may use some of the IOD stamps on it to outline my pattern and kind of going from there. But I am now going to be looking at cookie cutters differently and different objects, and I'm going to be looking for sweaters in the thrift store and wool blankets. And I tell you guys, this is a little addicting, and it's an easy thing to be sitting in front of the television and doing, and things like this do up really fast. Let me know about this. Certainly, if you are already a felter and you've got good tips for me and others that are watching the video so that we can perfect our skills and kind of jump forward with some of our projects, drop them in. More than happy to take direction from other people too. But really, I was a beginner, zero experience with this, and I got some projects that turned out okay. So I'm pretty happy with the way they turned out. Let me know what you think. As always, I look forward to hearing from you. And until the next time, take care.